welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Hilary, and today I have with me a very special guest for spooky season, Sally Jacoby Murphy, the Queen of Halloween.
Hello.
Hello, Sally. How does it feel to continue your reign into this new year?
It feels fabulous.
Okay, so today we are doing a spooky comic. So we've got Giant Size X-Men First Class #1. This was released in October 29th, 2008, and it features a whole series of scary movie classic themed shorts. So let's start with the very first issue. It's called The Thing, and then in parentheses, From Another Isle. It was written by Jeff Parker with pencils by Dean Haspiel. And Jeff Parker is the author of the main First Class series, which I enjoyed.
Mhm.
So this first one, The Thing, so like an homage to John Carpenter's The Thing, which I think you and I watched. Did we watch those together?
We may have. I mean, it is one of my favorites.
I mean, kind of all of these, I feel like if they weren't specifically homages to these movies, they might as well not exist because they're very short, aren't they?
They're extremely short. I read this first one, and I got to the end and I was like, "Oh no, did I download like the wrong comic or
Yeah,
something?" And I was like, "Oh no, that's it. That's it." Not to say that
yeah.
it's bad short, but it was just like a very abrupt.
Yeah, it's not what I was ready for, and then I kinda had to adjust my expectations, but it's sort of like it's just a series of bits, you know?
Mhm.
Like, it's like,
Yeah.
what if we did a cute little funny thing about the thing? What if we did a cute little it's just these quick little, like, shots.
Yeah.
Okay, so this issue starts and a lot of these seem to sort of center on Beast. Beast is talking to Xavier in like the garden or whatever, and there's like I'm gonna say FBI agent, probably something like that,
Mhm.
who is coming to them and being like, I'm really into these weird happenings. Like these cases are like weird and creepy, and my bosses are like, these are stupid, drop them. So he brings the files to the X-Men and is like, just hypothetically, if someone else were to look into such things, I couldn't stop them. And so basically he just wants them to pick up where he can't keep going to investigate something.
Mm.
And Beast is on it. In the last panel of the first page, he says, "The truth is out there." So we've already got some X-Files links happening.
I appreciated that.
Right? So they go to, is it Antarctica? Yeah, they go to Antarctica to a research facility, and some sort of creature has like burst out of like the one of the buildings that they've got up there. And Beast and Iceman are both down there. And we just kind of have a few cute little bits happening here where like Iceman is just in shorts, and the researchers are like, I mean, it's cold, and he's like, I'm good, dude. And then in the background, there's like a dog carrying around a severed hand, and they're like playing fetch with it. And then like they come back to research it, and Iceman is like making it dance. So all these kind of like grotesque references to the movie, but they're just kind of being cute with it. So
Mhm.
now at this point, it's very clear that they're going back to the movie. So can you just do a quick rundown of what this movie is about?
Yeah, so it's a bunch of researchers who are living in Antarctica, all of them men, and they do
Notably.
have a bunch of yes, notably a total lack of women. Maybe this would have gone better if there had been some women there. But basically, they have a bunch of sled dogs that they keep there at the facility. And one of them starts acting a little weird and turns into this sort of like grotesque, like almost looks like it's inside out spider figurey kind of thing. And so they're starting to freak out. People are kind of going missing. They're like spreading out to try and figure out what's going on. And then this thing keeps morphing onto people and they sort of become these weird, like grotesque body horror things. So it's kind of like they get infected by the thing and then it transforms them into something horrifying.
And doesn't it like take their place to some extent? Doesn't it like pretend to be
Yeah, they're sort of like before they turn into like the grotesque thing, they're kind of like taken over by it.
okay?
But they don't really, they're not like Invasion of the Body Snatchers in that they're not like human at that point. So they're not like having conversations and
They just
things.
kind of like
They're
walk
more like,
around looking like them.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's clearly where we're headed with this. Now, in this first panel where they're investigating this hand, and they discover that the hand is not human, like it looks human, but it's actually a plant. And that's a thing, right? It was like a plant of some kind or like a bacteria or something in the movie.
Yeah, I can't exactly remember what it is. It's, or like a fungus or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it
Yeah,
felt
it's
like that
not,
was the thing.
it's, yeah, it's not like fleshy.
Yeah. So they've discovered that it looks like a hand. It's not a hand. It's a plant. And while they're messing around with the research equipment, you see this really cool in the background in the window behind Bobby, who's just kind of like messing around with the hand and making it dance and stuff, is a really cool, creepy monster thing. And it's got like 3 heads, and it's like all morphy and weird and creepy, and then it bursts through and grabs Bobby and pulls him out into the winter. And so now the action has begun. So they fight like luckily these are X-Men and not just random male scientists in Antarctica. And so they freeze the monster and they drag it back in to the research facility.
Hmm.
I guess they're gonna thaw it out for some reason, and they're gonna do some more research, and they're gonna go look around, and they finally figure out that this is actually the creation of one of the researchers. So they find out that a researcher has been trying to figure out how to use is it soy, some sort of plant-based
Yeah.
meat situation, and he decided
Hmm.
that the way to make it the most like meat was to make it like the animals
Yes.
first, and then I guess kill the animals. So, like, he's creating these, like, animals that he can then kill, which sort of defeats the entire purpose of going
Yeah,
plant-based. But it,
it
like, went
does.
out of control, just like, these things do in sciencey things, and he lost control of the monster, and now this is the problem.
Yes.
And then it's basically just at this point, it's just a matter of them defeating the monster. They kind of like burn things down. And it's sort of like, okay, fine, we've solved the problem. So there
Hmm.
was a problem with this monster. We figured out who made the monster. We destroyed the monster. We're done. And the basic conclusion is, well, now I guess we just have to tell the FBI guy that it wasn't aliens. Oh, well, but we solved the problem. And the very last panel is something that appears to be climbing out of the monster that does look like perhaps it is an alien. And it's just sort of a da 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 ending to this quick little homage to the thing.
Yep.
So what did you think? Like as a the thing aficionado, how did you feel about this issue?
I actually liked it. I mean, it's definitely so I agree with you when they like show the soy-based entities and they're like shaped like cows and pigs and
Uh
stuff. I was
poor
like,
guys.
right. I was like, I would not want to eat that.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a weird twist. It's almost like sucks you back into the real world a little too fast, I feel like.
To make it such like a rational reason to make them and stuff.
Yeah, instead of it being like the thing or something like that, you know?
Mhm.
But I enjoyed the homage to it and I thought it was fun. I don't
Yeah.
know why I like the thing so much, but I even think the setting in Antarctica and stuff, I just think it's like a cool thing, so it's fun.
Yeah, well, I think that the thing that the thing does well is, like, the atmosphere and the suspense and the, like, not knowing what's
Yeah,
going on and that kinda thing. So I think regardless of the specifics, it just is good filmmaking and makes you feel kind of unsettled and all that kinda stuff, which was this was a
yeah.
funny take because it's not that at all.
Right, right.
It's just, like, played for laughs, basically, and it's just fun, and I did think that worked, like, once I accepted that that was what we were doing, I was in for it, they just were cute and playing around with the idea, which was fun.
I agree. I mean, I think it's enjoyable. I think it's fun. And it's like I do like those like random sort of creepy little bits with them playing with the hand and stuff like that. That's good.
Was there in the movie, is it one of those things where it's like, "Man tried to play God, and so this happened," or was it just, like, some weird invasion thing?
I guess it's a little bit ambiguous because they do know that this whatever this is has like attacked a I think it's a Norwegian like settlement or something. And so I think there's a little bit of ambiguity where they're like, did they create it or did it land here? But I think the consensus is like that this is somehow alien, that
Okay.
it's somehow gotten here and they were to study it and it didn't work or something like that. So
Maybe it's like a humans going where they're not welcome kind of a thing, like settling land that shouldn't
yeah.
be like it's wild and it should be left alone or whatever. Like the ocean. What the heck is with the
Yeah.
ocean, Sally? A bunch of creepy monsters down
Uh,
there. So that's that one, that's the
that's
first
fair enough.
one. Sets the tone, I think, pretty well for what we're going to expect for the rest of this. So
Mhm.
the next issue is titled Invasion of the Bobby Snatchers, as in Iceman. This was written by Jeff Parker again and pencils by Nick Killislean and is the homage to Jack Finney's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Jack Finney is frequent guest Nick Gunning's favorite author.
Huh, I did not know that.
So when we get into this one, it's a similar kind of a vibe where they're just kind of like chilling, being mutants, living their lives. And another it's linked to the first one because the same agent has like given them another call or something like
Mhm.
that, and they found out that there's this town somewhere like Midwesty kind of a town. Oh, it's in California. It feels very Midwesty. But they go,
Not
it's
Midwestern
this
at all.
town where, like, something is happening, and so they go down to investigate.
Mhm.
Everything seems fine. They get there, and, like, the mayor or somebody who had initially reported this is like, "Oh, yeah, sorry you made the it was just a mistake. Everything's fine. You can go home now. Tra la." And the X-Men don't immediately buy this. And then a kid runs up and is like, "My mom's not my mom, help." And so they decide that they're gonna stick around and try to figure this out. They end up at a barbecue with these people and are just sort of like floating around being like, "We should probably figure this out, but whatever." And the kid runs away from his mom, Beast chases after him, and they end up in a greenhouse and Beast sort of figures out the thing. So
Mhm.
which happens in the invasion of the body snatchers. There's like a seed pod or whatever and it bursts and it's starting to make a new beast. And so Beast is like, "Aha, they're all body doubles. I know what's going on. We're going to figure this out." And then Angel and Iceman walk in and they're like, "I'm sorry, Beast. We can't allow that." And they have been replaced.
No.
Beast is kind of stuck, but he's trying to like figure his way out. Iceman ices him up so he can't go anywhere. And Jean comes in and is like, "Yeah, we're all part of this and everything's gonna blah, blah, whatever." Scott, Cyclops, who was parking the car and so was late, comes in and is like, "Hey dudes, what's up?" And Jean is like, "He Beast is a body double. You got to shoot him really quick." And so he does, but luckily Jean telekinetically splits his eye beam so that it hits the Bobby and Angel doubles and not Beast. Because surprise, she was not a double. She was just her, and she solves the problem, which Jean always does.
Sneaky, sneaky.
Jean gets things done. So then that solves the problem. They report back to the agent guy and to the professor, and they're like, "Okay, we figured it out and everything is fine." And we have a cute little pulpy moment where Beast in the last panel is looking directly into the camera and says, "The pods are here. You could be next," like speaking to the reader. So that was fun. So, what is your favorite version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and is it this?
It's not this, although I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I think I like the original, like the
Oh,
50
yeah,
I
the
think it's
black and white.
50s? Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the one I grew up
It's a
on, and I
good
feel like
one.
it's still
It's
sort
a
of a
good one.
classic
I
to
like
me,
that one.
so
I like how
yeah.
each
What about
one
you?
I think that's probably my favorite. There's one from, like, I'm gonna say the '70s Donald Sutherland is in that, and that one probably is the most striking in my mind. It has a moment in it that sticks with me the most out of all of the different versions, but I feel like every version of this
Hmm,
kind of does something different, which I think is cool. Like, it's not just a remake of a remake kind of a thing. So, I kinda like all of them.
that's true, yeah. There's a lot to play with in Invasion, I feel
Yeah,
like.
it's a creepy concept.
It's funny, I just watched a movie called No One Will Save You. It's like a new movie on Hulu, and it's a very much like this vibe, like aliens are sort of coming down and they're replacing
Mhm,
humans. So it's not exactly, the pods and stuff are I feel like are classic Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it's just like a fun
mhm.
premise. And I like in this comic that they did have like actual like some of the superheroes or whatever are actually infected by it.
Yeah,
I
it
think
is
that's fun.
cool, and they're very creepy and, like, serene and stuff, and in the end, you find out that they're all fine. Like, it's not one of those situations where, like, their bodies
Yeah,
have been dissolved or whatever, and that's just the end. They're all fine, they just need to be
right.
woken up and they'll live on. Okay, so this next one I think is kind of the most weird, I guess, out of all of them. It's called Vigil of the Mad. So this is like a weird take on the title Village of the Damned. This one was written by Roger Langridge, and it's in the form of a children's book, I'm gonna say. It's got like rhymes and
Yeah.
animations, and it's about Charles Xavier as a young child just freaking the heck out of everybody around him. Now, I don't know anything about Village of the Damned. I assume you do.
I mean, I've definitely
What
seen
is
it.
that the one where not Children of the Corn? What is Village of the Damned?
No, Children of the Corn is kind of a take on Village of the Damned, though. That was like an American's
Huh,
response to a very popular ongoing
okay.
franchise. Well, and there are others too, like The Brood, which is like I think a better version, which is also a take on Village of the Damned. That's like a
Mhm.
70s version. But the original Village of the Damned is like a British movie. I want to say maybe like 60s. And it's just about basically, there's a town where suddenly people are kind of like falling unconscious or like feeling sick and woozy. And then all of a sudden, all of the women and girls who are like of childbearing age are
Ah,
like pregnant. And they all give birth to these strange children that like are pale and they have these sort of like creepy eyes and they grow faster than other children.
my gosh.
Yeah, because there's no, like, explanation for it, they just kind of around it, being like, "What's going on? Who are these children? Why
And
are
they
they
just, like,
so
raise the
weird?"
kids like whatever?
Yeah, but then, like, as the children grow older, like, strange things start happening, there's some, like, violence, they start to, like, move around in packs and, like,
Wow.
you know,
I hate this.
um yeah, I don't know. So, I'm trying to remember yeah, and, like, they cause the deaths of people. So, like, they never kill people outright, but, like, they'll be looking at somebody driving a car and he'll, like, smash it into a
Wow.
wall or something like that. They can block these children's sort of, like, telekinetic powers by envisioning a brick wall. And so
Okay.
I think that's part of what this
Yeah.
comic is referencing. So that's the movie basically, is like them slowly realizing, oh, these kids are straight up evil and like probably aliens.
Wow. So there's, like, a serious alien theme in this. I hadn't actually made that connection. I feel like every single one of these is like, "Oh, aliens."
But like ambiguous aliens.
So this is
Yeah.
basically what happens in Vigil of the Mad. It's Lil Charles Xavier in Village of the Mad, or The Beastly Child is what it is. So told in storybook form, we hear about Charles Xavier, this little boy who's already bald. He has his creepy eyebrows, and he's just sort of, it seems like he starts out as kind of like a nice kid, but everybody thinks he looks weird, so they make fun of him. And he discovers that he has these psychic powers, and so he uses it to control the other kids. So then we see a little bit of the walking in packs kind of thing, I guess, like where they're just sort of falling in line,
Mhm.
walking along, being creepy. There's a doctor who's like a neighbor, and he's like, "What the heck is happening with these kids?" And so he just watches. He just watches them and tries to figure it out. He tries to teach them to be nice, and they just won't. So in the end, he decides to just build a brick wall, but like one with a hole in it. And he's going to sit
Mhm.
inside the brick wall and like observe them, I guess, and see if he can solve this problem. He basically walls himself up, but with like ways to get out. The kids don't fall for it, even for a second. But instead of just being like, hey, we see you, they pretend not to know what's going on and then are like, oh, we found this brick wall. And as children would, we are continuing the wall and building it into a house. The guy says nothing, doesn't do anything about this, and they brick him up inside of the house. So we've got kind of a Cask of Amontillado situation happening as well. And you just
Mhm.
have his eye, like he's the only opening in this house is the hole where the man was looking out. So you just see
Right.
his eyes and then a full brick wall. And it basically just ends that's it. Like he just that's where he spent the rest of his days. Doesn't say anything about him dying, but I guess we would assume that he would. And that's just it. That's the end. You don't even really see Xavier's response or anything. It's just like a slow zoom in on the guy's eyes, and that's it. The last panel is just his eyes, and it says, "His eyes remain, our tales complete." End.
Which I
Of
love.
course you do. I wanna read this little thing. The author
Uh,
of this, Roger Langridge, has a blog, and he wrote this little thing about it, and I wanna just read it. He says, "Here's a little oddity I did for some X-Men Halloween thing a couple of years ago. The brief was to do something inspired by a famous horror movie. Not being much of a horror fan, I was stuck for an idea until Nate Cosby, the editor, suggested doing a riff on The Village of the Damned. I can't remember why I threw in the Edward Gorey pastiche, but I'm glad I did." So the question of why the heck it was this weird, creepy storybook thing, there's no answer. But it was creepy. It
Good, good,
was
good, good.
creepy.
I enjoyed
This
it.
this one, I mean, it's only 2 pages in
Yeah, it's very short.
this, like, rhyming thing. I mean, I'll ask how you think it matches the movie, but it doesn't really seem to try to that much.
No, I feel like it's just going for, like, the sort of vibes and the like, using the
Yeah.
creepy kids thing, but I don't think it actually, has anything to do with the plot of the movie.
It's interesting to know that thing about the brick wall
Yeah.
because that does, I mean, clearly seem to be connected somehow, even if it's not really the same.
Yeah, an homage.
So the last one here is "The Day the Earth Would Not Stand Still," which is obviously "The Day the Earth Stood Still," written again by
Mhm.
Jeff Parker, pencils by Michael Cho. And this one I think was the most striking visually.
Yeah, I liked the color palette, it was really
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
like all black and blue for most of it, and sometimes black and red, and it's just like shades of those and nothing else.
Mhm. Yeah.
And this is a story this actually I didn't it doesn't have a title page or whatever, and so I didn't immediately get which one they were doing until the very end, but we start with Beast and Cyclops are flying in something that looks like a flying saucer. I think it's just
Mhm.
their ship, but it looks like a flying saucer, and they crash in China, I think?
It appears to be.
Yeah, I think it's China, and they are greeted by the Chinese military, who are freaked to the heck out because a flying saucer just crashed in their city, and, Beast puts on now why does he I think I feel like this helmet just sort of fell on him while they were crashing, there's not really an explanation, but he has a helmet stuck on his head that kind of looks kinda alien and stuff, so he Beast bursts out of the flying saucer looking full alien, and everybody's freaking out about it, and Beast is like, "No, I come in peace," and all this stuff, and they don't believe him, they fire on him, they accidentally hit something in the ship that changes the gravity around them, like, I guess
Right.
there's an anti-grav device that, like, makes the ship fly, but they break it, and so then it makes all of the people float around outside of the ship, and
Mhm.
then Everybody continues freaking out. Beast has fallen, and so he can't really help. They decide they're going to destroy the ship, and out walks Cyclops, and he's sort of backlit and looking all creepy. And then you immediately see, you're like, oh, so this is the day the Earth stood still, because he's got kind of the same silhouette and look as the big robot from the day the Earth stood still. He
Mhm.
comes out, he blasts them with his I beam thing, and they surrender. The Chinese military surrenders. He hasn't been able to get them to listen, and this is because of the language barrier.
Right.
So Beast sort of decides to take a different tack and is like, "Okay, yes, we are aliens, but now you need to know that if you don't stop being violent, we'll come back and attack you again with this Cyclops thing." And then they leave and contact the FBI agent and be like, "Yeah, there's no aliens. It's just us." So that's kinda like concludes
Mm.
the whole like, the overarching thing where this poor agent is just continually trying to find aliens, and all that happens is them finding out no aliens and sometimes causing the problems themselves. So that's the end of that one. What do you think of that?
I mean, I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I feel like this I mean, I enjoy it, but I think this one is probably a little bit more fun for people who know their X-Men a little better than me, if that makes sense. Like, I was a little confused, like, are they
Yes, so if
aliens?
you if you know the very basics of the X-Men are not aliens, that's the important thing to know for this.
Didn't think so, but I was, like, second guessing myself.
Yeah, I think that the art was probably the best thing about this, like
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still enjoyed it for sure. I did like the moment where they're like, "Hey, we've, like, accidentally invaded you and, like, caused basically a war."
Mhm.
And he's like, "We don't like war, so don't do this again or we'll come back." I did enjoy that moment.
I like to like, after they say it, they sort of, like, rush back onto the ship, and they're like, "Do you think they bought it? Let's get out of here."
Yeah. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that moment. I
That
thought
is
it was
really
like, "That's
funny.
fun." If you're gonna accidentally invade someone, you may as well do it for a good
Yeah, just get
reason.
them to put down their guns, man.
Amen.
So there's a little I'm gonna call this an after credits scene right at the very end of this issue, which has the agent receiving the call of like, "Yeah, this isn't aliens," and all this stuff. "Well, I guess there's no aliens. Silly of me to look into it. Let's move on." And he's being transferred to another division, whatever. And then we see these silhouettes of what appear to be aliens being like, haha, so they have fallen for our ruse and now everything is all figured out and stuff. And we see, did you have any idea who these people were?
No. No, I don't.
No clue. Okay. So what we see, these are the Skrull. Does that mean
Hmm.
anything to you?
No.
Okay. So the Skrull are an alien race that interact with, the Avengers and the X-Men and like just kind of Earth people periodically. And they're sort of like a war race and they're constantly at war with Kree. And it's like this, it's kind of this, if there's something with outer space in the Marvel world, it will very often connect with the Skrull or the Kree or both. And what is interesting about this is when this came out in October 2008, this was during a very big event in the Marvel Universe called The Secret Invasion.
Hmm.
And there's a show right now on Disney Plus with Samuel L. Jackson and kind of everybody about the Secret Invasion, where the Skrulls can change shape and they
Hmm.
can impersonate people. And
Mhm.
so they kind of infiltrated various high level things around the world. And like, it was a whole thing with like some of the Avengers were secretly Skrulls and like some like big people in the governments of the world and stuff. And so this is just sort of a cute little nod to that, where that event is happening in other comics in the Marvel universe while this is coming out. And so they're just sort of like, we're doing a thing where they're looking for aliens and they don't even know that at the same time, there are aliens currently invading the Earth in the broader Marvel universe, which I thought was a fun connection to make.
Hmm. Interesting. That's fun.
Yeah.
I dig that.
So That's the secret behind that page, Sally, in case you were
I
wondering.
mean, I was kind of curious, and I was hoping you would enlighten me, so
And that's it for all of the new content in that collection. It ends with The Mark of the Monster, which we've already talked about, which is just a reprint
Frankenstein.
from whenever, forever ago. So overall, I liked this. How did you feel about it?
I thought it was quite enjoyable. I mean, I like a
Yeah.
good sort of, like, skit show or something like that, and so I feel like this was just a perfect little, like,
Yeah,
Halloween
I liked
read, you
it. I
know?
feel like previous Halloween comics that I've looked at have been much more like this is just a self-contained story, but it is a full story. And this was very
Mhm.
different from that. It's just cute little yeah, skits is a great word for it.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Are alien horror movies something you enjoy or do you lean other directions?
Yeah, I mean, I generally enjoy them. I love the Alien series, like Sigourney Weaver's series. I mean, I like sci-fi in general, and so I feel like there are plenty of sci-fi that are not horror, I guess, and then there's a large Venn diagram of them that
Mhm.
are horror, and I like those. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for joining me and sharing your Queen of Halloween expertise on this Halloweeny episode.
Well, thanks for having me. I absolutely adore doing these things.
It's so fun. And you've done a lot of other you did House things, right? Over at the David A. Howe Public Library as Queen of Halloween.
Yes.
You did but have you tried also with the David A. Howe Public Library?
And I will be on This Endorian Life.
You were supposed to do 9021 Here We Go here on the Radio Meanwhile network,
Mhm.
but somehow you were not able to participate in that, and so I stepped in to lend my opinions, but I felt woefully, like, unprepared to offer the kind of expertise that would come from a queen of Halloween. So we missed you.
I do appreciate you taking my place there.
Okay, so that's it for our Halloween episode of Previously on X-Men. Up next, we're going to be talking with Eric, animated series episodes Proteus 1 and 2. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, This Endorian Life, and 9021 Here We Go. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, or Facebook at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, or share the show wherever you get your podcasts. Happy Halloween from the Queen of Halloween.